Hello and welcome to Stream Tabulous. So today we're going to take a look at the new Juggernaut model Hyper, and we're going to take a look at the samplers that I created, which of course link for those will be in the description wherever YouTube decide to put it. And yeah, we'll take a look at how those samplers actually affect the render. So when you're trying to design something, you can apply the look that you want using the sampler. So we'll go over to the intro and then we'll get on with the show. Okay, here we are in Krita, and I just have the Juggernaut Hyper Diffusion model set up here, and I've put a prompt in here, and we're going to come through and we're going to start off with taking a look at the DPM++ M2. And this is just set up as normal, and we've got it on 25 steps and a render of 1.9. Sorry, the CFG guidance of 1.9. So we'll hit render. We'll cut and skip forward so you don't have to wait for the wait times, and we'll take a look at the result. Okay, so we have our render here, and we can see that the Juggernaut Hyper is doing a beautiful, beautiful job of the picture. Now, I've set this up to a low image size, so some of the quality is probably not as good as it would be if you're able to run a larger canvas to do your renders on. Now, that said, you can always upscale these and get better quality later. And you don't have to upscale with the sampler that you're actually running. So you could upscale it with a lightning to make it faster at the end of it, or whatever you're choosing is, to get that better quality. And it's the same if you use a sampler which you really like the look of it. But some of the samplers do have more of a grain to it. And if you change the sampler at the end and then upscale it, you can get that exact same image and it will smooth it out and clean it up. So that's something to keep in mind. Another thing to keep in mind is every one of the samplers will run differently. So they'll run at different speeds depending on how they work. So let's take a look at a different one now. We're going to take a look at the Lightning LoRa Ural Ancestral. So I'm going to set it up on this one. And we're going to put it on 10 steps. We're going to put it on 1.5, which it's automatically on via the sampler I've set up. We're going to press OK. And then we're going to run it again. And I mean, we can already see straight away that this one is running faster. And it runs faster also because it is lower steps. And on top of that, it's set up to be used as a lightning. So it will turn a normal non-lightning model by using the lightning LoRa into a lightning model. So you can do lower steps and then that LoRa will go through and do the cleanup at the end. And it's almost done, which is a lot quicker than the other one. And we can already see that there is a big, big difference. We can see there is more detail in the background. We have a softer, more realistic, well, they're both realistic faces. But we can see that there is a clear distinction in difference. This one has nice fabric detail. It's actually really beautiful. You can see the rocks in the background have a texture to it. We come through to this one, and they have the texture as well, but there's a difference in the way the lighting is and the handling. So every sampler will have its unique difference, and this is something a lot of people don't understand, is when you're actually, what I wanted on that one there, we'll try the uniform. I'll go 11 steps and I want 1.9. So one of the things that a lot of people don't get is there's different types of AI, and depending on the AI you're using, some of them like this form of Stable Diffusion Comfy, the way it runs in the background, needs a lot of human interaction, guidance, and intelligence to get the artwork to come out the way you want it. So it's kind of like a combination lock. If you don't have the right prompt weights, you don't have the right model, you don't have the right samplers, you don't have the settings, then you're not going to get the results that you're seeing here. And we can see with this one, we have a more sharper image. And we can change that again. We can come through and we can drop that CFG, which can affect the sharpness of it. And we can run that again and get a different result, which is the other thing. So the way you use the sampler can very heavily affect the way the render actually looks, and influence what you want to achieve with your artwork. And it is your artwork when you're doing it like this. You're applying that human creativity, that human touch. You're going through and you're doing all the work to guide it to the direction that you want. And it takes hours. And you can see here that we have this one's a lot sharper with its details, and this one's a lot softer in its tone. So we can see how that's going. So we'll come down now and we'll go to the another LoRa one, the Euler Expedition. I have these written down to try to make it faster to do the video. So I'm going to try 1.5, and I might go 1.1, take it to 9. Let's see how well it can do at a low steps. So we'll run it through, and we'll see what it looks like. Yeah, increasing the steps can add more details. It can be hit and miss. You can... Playing with the steps and the CFG is that whole scale of balance. If you go too high with your steps sometimes, you can get a lot of artifacts. You go too low, you can get a lot of artifacts. So you have to find that middle ground. And you can see here, like from coming through to this, we have that softer tone, that sort of haze, and it looks more like what you would expect from a professional photography camera. So we'll try this one now, and we'll put this at 18 steps. So this is the DPM++ 3M SDE, and it's using the exponential, I believe it's pronounced. Dyslexia, reading problems. You guys can see it there, and phonetically spell it for me in the comments below. Now, I haven't tested this when I did my samples. I was actually using the Hollow World version 6 model. Fantastic model, really beautiful, highly recommended. The Juggernaut Hyper model and the version 10 model as well, which I've just tried out. The version 10 model, and I haven't tested it with the Hyper, but I'm assuming it would be the same. We can get that grey skin now, so we're getting a bit better prompt adherence on controlling our characters, which is absolutely fantastic to see. It's a little hit and miss with saying the colour of the eyes and the colour of the clothing. It's still getting confused there. So its prompt adherence is a little hit and miss, but it's definitely getting that better control on it. And depending on the artwork you're doing, absolutely fantastic. And we can see that there. So we can come through and we can try that at a lower steps. We'll go to 10 and we'll drop that CFG to 3. So 9 and 3, 1.3 I should say. So, and we'll see what that looks like. We'll see if it should give it a softer tone. But this is not got the lightning LoRa on the back of it. So when it doesn't have the lightning LoRa on the back of it, sometimes it needs more steps, not less steps. So it sort of works in reverse. And we'll see how that goes. Yeah, so we can see we're getting a mess there. And that's what I mean, you've got to find that balance. So we can bring this up to 30 steps. We'll leave that guidance at 1.3. Will take a little bit longer to render, and then we'll take a look at the results to it. You can see these more steps are giving it a lot cleaner image. So it's halfway. That was when we tried the low steps, and that's when we increased the steps. So you can see how those steps are going through affecting the model. But when you're doing your stable diffusion, it's a very different tool. It requires a lot of time and effort and a lot of human interaction to go in to generate the artwork that you're actually looking for. Sure, you can do quick little prompts and get an image, but you're not generating that fantastic artwork, those intricacies and those details, and getting the image to elicit an emotion and a awe from the person that is viewing it. And to me, that is the difference between a quick AI render and then something where someone has put the time and effort in to get a beautiful image. And I think that shows when you look at some AI artwork. And yeah, I don't think I've updated the model in this one yet. So with the new model, you'll notice I have the full names in there now. So we'll come through and we'll try that uniform. We're on 20 steps and 2.5, and we'll run that. But you're starting to see how each model has those differences to it and how it heavily affects it. So you can see these blue tones coming through on the back here. You can see this one here has, you know, the more layered lighting. So every model is, or every sampler affects the model very, very differently. And I think that's important to know. And that is why I'm loving Acly's AI Diffusion 1.171. The ability to add those samplers we didn't have before, which now means you can control your artwork more. And I think that's important. Okay, so we can see that one there, and we can see there's a lot of detail. It's a very sharp, very focused. It has a little bit of a fake tone to it. Now that is usually the CFG, so the guidance. The higher it is, usually the more sort of animated sort of look you get. And when we lower it down, the more realistic we usually get. So I'm going to drop that to 1.3, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to crank that to 30 on the steps, and then we're going to render it. And I imagine that will put it more in line with something like this, or something like this. But hopefully what we get is less sharp details, so I'm hoping for sort of that smoother look with the sort of colors to it and the vibrancy. And we can even see, I was saying those details in the distance. So this one has the bokeh effect to it where it's not quite in focus. This one here, we can see it has that same sort of thing going through. This one here is chosen to do stained glass, and we see some trees out the window. But when we come down to this one, we can see very defined plants coming through here, which is absolutely gorgeous. And we see it through on this as well. So we can see the way different models adhere to the prompt differently as well. So in this one, I mean, it's got in there that it's in a forest, so inside of a castle. And, we can see that we're getting prompt adherence on this. And yeah, I mean, it took me a couple of hours to do this prompt, believe it or not. Because you start with the basics. What do you want? You sort of want that sort of person that looks a bit like a jester with a sort of Joker-style face paint on. I want them in a castle, you know, and then you go into the details. Well, this is how I want the light to look. This is where I want the light to sort of come from. I want, you know, light rays in it, or I want light coming in through large windows or small windows. Mine's large open windows and, you know, large windows. And you know, then you put the forest in, and then you say, hey, you know, I want it to be sunlight, daytime, autumn, spring. You go into that full mode of like writing a book. So where you're describing everything in that scene. And that's what it is. It's kind of like poetry and writing music. Writing prompts is to get people that write the best prompts put a lot of time and effort into it, and you can see that when you get your renders. Okay, so we've loaded up the person with the crowd in the background. Usually I would have a makeup on this one, but I don't think I've actually got that in the prompt for this one. Oh, it's got face paint on it, so hopefully we'll get it. It's handy to go through and copy your prompt and actually save your prompt to a text file. And what I would recommend doing is save your text prompt, write in the sampler that you're using and the steps, any negatives, and then rename that text file to the exact same name as what you've got the saved picture. That way, if you want to recreate that artwork, you have access to that. Because if you don't back it up, again, it's like a combination lock. You may never ever get that same artwork ever again if you've forgotten one or two things. And yeah, it's that fussy when you're working with this tool that you need to have everything. Now that's why I think there's a lot of AI art generation tools out there, and Adobe have the right to be copyright protected. And that happened because Adobe turned around and said, okay, well, we don't have all the images that we use to train our model are our images, and we have the copyright to those. Yes. The court said, yes, you've got the rights to those images. Well, we trained our model with those copyright images, so we own the model, correct? And they went, yes. And they went, so if we made something with the program because it's our images in the model that have trained it, then we own the rights to that? And they said, yes. And they said, well then, underneath Adobe's license, if anyone uses our program, then they should be protected and underneath the copyright of Adobe's license. So they hold a copyright under Adobe if you've created it using Adobe AI. So that's something interesting. Stable Diffusion don't use copyrighted material anymore. They use their own material. So the copyright for Stable Diffusion images falls under Stable Diffusion. And with the person that's made the model, that means the person that made the model technically owns the copyright to the images created. So if they give the rights to, yes, you can have the copyright to the images that you create with my model, then no one else can download and steal your image. And that's something to keep in mind. So there's lots of weird little loopholes and lots of bizarre things happening in the AI world, which do my head in. So let's try the DPM SDE exponential. And we're going to try that at 15. And we're going to drop that down to 1.3 steps. And we're going to run this model now. And we can see here that, we have, again, you can upscale this with something else, but you see you got these dots on the face and the background isn't very clear. So we'll come through, we'll run this, we'll skip forward, we'll take a look at it, and we'll try a different model. Okay, so we can see it's very different. The people in the background are Day of the Dead people, so we can see how that's happening there. And we'll go through and we'll try a couple of different samplers, and we'll see how they affect this image. Okay, so to make it faster, I've read my file already, and I've moved on to the DPM++ to mkeras at 20 steps and 2. And we'll see how that renders as well. Keep in mind, I was also using the HoloWorld version 6 model, which we might, after we do the run with this, if we get a nice looking image, I might move over to that and we'll see how that actually looks. There we go. So there's our image there. So what I want to do now is I'm going to change it, and I'm going to use that exact same sampler. So the DPM++ to mkeras with HoloWorld version 6. So we want the DPM++ to mkeras, and we want 20 and what did we say? 2.6? 2.6. Going to take a moment to load up the model, and then it's going to run, and we'll see how the HoloWorld version 6 model compares to the Juggernaut model for the Hyper. Something to keep in mind is when you go through and you look at models, they say they work with certain samplers better than others. So this model might not like the sampler that we just tested. So, but we'll see how they go side by side. But that's why we normally go through and we check them out, and we try different models, try different samplers to get what we want. And with this particular picture, we want those people in the background. We want that crowd. And for some reason, we're not getting that with the Juggernaut model. But I have noticed Juggernaut is fantastic for a single subject. It is not good for intricate prompt adherence of controlling lots of aspects of the image. I like full control of my image because, I mean, you guys know I used to draw on that, so I come from an artistic background, and not having the control frustrates me. I want to use this as a tool, and I want to use it to generate art that elicits emotions and stuff, like basically what I used to do, but in a different manner with a new tool. And yeah, finding the right model matters. Finding the sampler to go with that model matters. So you can see that there. It is very, very different. So models play a massive part. And that's why people go, wow, you've got 2 terabyte worth of models? Yes, I have 2 terabytes worth of models. And the reason I have 2 terabytes of models is because I'll go through and I'll hear prompt or part of a prompt. I'll go through and check my models. I'll add more to the prompt. If I'm not getting adherence, I will change models. And I'll continue this process of steps and going through, refining my image, finding out what works best, and stepping back and forth, stepping away, saving prompts, coming to it, adding more to it, taking more away from it, and so on, until I get the absolute perfect image that I'm looking for. So we'll try the Euler U. We're going to go 20 steps, and we'll go 3. And we'll see how this one compares. And I mean, at the end of this, we'll get an idea of why models matter, and we'll see why the samplers matter. And we can see the way we're getting these controls and these different images every time we run it. And some of them, like this one here, those might look the best, but keep in mind I'm running at a low resolution. You upscale these and they look absolutely fantastic. We can see how that's playing through. Got a bit of a crowd there on this sampler. This sampler, we're not getting the crowd, which is the same sampler as this one. But when we're swapping over to a different model, we're getting the crowd. So it's a matter of playing with it. A sampler can actually also affect the level of detail that you get, because it's all about the layers and the way those layers are controlled. So, and we can see that. This is what I mean by we get these details in the background. I imagine the Keras version of that will be absolutely beautiful. Keras usually does better jobs for its background and more details. So we'll try the Keras, and we'll try 12 and 3 to begin with. We can see those details in the background again. We can see we're getting more to that background. And I mean, we can play with that. We can try to put that up, and we can put the steps up. We'll just go 24 and 4. And we play with it to find that balance. So there are lots of factors that will affect the way your artwork comes out. But the biggest factor is how much time and effort that you actually put into it. And yeah, I think putting that time and effort into it is something which is why copyright protection is important to me. Because when you're putting so much time into something, human labor into it, then you should have the right to be able to say, hey, you know, I've put time and effort in, I've controlled this, this is mine, it's not someone else's. It's not something someone else can generate without copying your prompt, knowing the sampler, and knowing the model. And if they're going to sit there and try to work out those details, it's going to take them a while. And, you know, I mean, obviously it's going to render a different image, and I'm like, well, that's fair enough. But to take your image, which is unique to you that you've created, and, you know, go posting it everywhere else. That's not right to me. And we can see here, you know, coming through and increasing those steps and increasing the CFG has added a lot more. And we can see the way that's working there. I'll save that one and we'll come through. Okay, so there it is. That's going through and taking a look at how the samplers and models affect the prompt. Of course, prompting is definitely a skill and an art form. And to get that prompt right takes a lot of work and a lot of time to dial it in. Some people might be quicker than others. For me, it's taken me, it took me 7 hours to do a ghost yesterday because I wanted translucency to it, which is something that AI doesn't do. So you want to try to find ways around it. You're like, well, how can I try to find ways around it? Well, I'll try this and I'll try that and I'll do this until I worked out the absolute perfect prompt. The original prompt had sort of made it look translucent for the ghost, but it lacked certain details. So then I spent a further 3 hours on it. So it took me about 6 hours in total. And then I like to go through and do a lot of cleanup afterwards as well. So I put a lot of effort into them. But I'll leave a link, of course, to the new samplers. And these ones have LCMs in the new one, which Peter recommended. So thank you. Shout out to him. So I've put them in there, and they weren't in there for the last lot that you downloaded. So they're new to this video. So overwrite your samplers again and get the new samplers. And yeah, every time I add something new, I'll probably put the a date in there for it, so you guys know that it's a different version. So these ones will obviously be a May update, for example. And yeah, of course, don't forget to like, subscribe, and get the bell on for notifications. Share this video if you found it helpful. Leave a comment below if you found it helpful and what you thought of it. And of course, I will see you in the next Streamtabulous video. Thank you for watching my video and sticking around to the end. If you like my videos, it'd really help me out if you could like and subscribe. It helps the YouTube algorithm to push my videos out there to more viewers, which in turn helps me and helps everyone. So thank you for watching my video and hanging around to the end, and I will see you in the next video.